Have you ever wondered how a car steering system usually works, or how it's easy for you to drive your vehicle and steer it to the opposite direction? In this video, I'm going to explain to you about how a car steering system usually works and the mechanisms and the components that makes a car steering system to work. Firstly, in a car steering system, it usually have a steering rack and a pinion gear. That is for the manual steering system. And that manual steering system usually have a steering wheel, which is at the end, which is used by the driver to steer the vehicle from left to right. But sometimes, if you steer the vehicle can still be moving at a straight line, and while the wheel of the vehicle is tilted sideways. This is where the principle of wheels comes in. So right here is a wheel which is moving at a straight line direction, and this is the wheel. So if a wheel is moving at a straight line direction and is tilted sideways, if the translational velocity is not equal to the rotational velocity, then the vehicle will not move to the opposite direction. The translational velocity of the wheel must be in the same line with the rotational velocity, which is this area, which is the rotational velocity. So if the translational velocity is at a straight line, while the rotational velocity is slanty, that means the vehicle will still be moving at a straight line, while the wheel is going to be tilted a little bit sideways, making the vehicle to skid. Indirectly making the vehicle to skid and reducing the risk of the vehicle, reducing the rate of the vehicle to turn to the next direction. So at this point, the velocity of the tire to the road must be 0. This is one of the basic inputs, because if the velocity of the tire to the road is not 0, that means it will make the vehicle to not move freely. So the transitional velocity here helps the vehicle and makes it to make sure that if it must be in the straight line for the vehicle to move to the opposite direction. And this is where this other principle comes into, the principle of the wheel. The wheel, while the wheel is tilted, the angle of the wheel which is tilted at the right hand side, at this above point, must be different from the tilting of the wheel from this point. And all the wheels must meet at one common point, which will make the vehicle to tilt round sideways at the road. Which will make the vehicle to tilt sideways at the road and enable the vehicle to corner to the next direction. So these are the basic components of a steering system in a vehicle. Right here is the steering wheel, this is the steering wheel, and this is the pinion gear. And this is the steering rack, this is the tie rod, and this is the steering arm. So now, the pinion gear is connected to the steering rack, which is connected to the steering rack, which is also connected to the tie rod, and the tie rod is connected to the steering arm. This steering arm helps the vehicle to tilt left and right. And to make this steering rack, the steering rack ought to be the same measurement and ought to be the same measurement compared to the pinion gear. They will meet in this teeth. This teeth and this teeth will meet together, which enable the steering system to move left and right. So this is the manual setup for a manual. This is the manual setup of a steering system. That means the manual steering system without no direct current brushless motor. So right now I'm going to give you the components in a power steering. A power steering is simply a kind of steering mechanism which enables a driver to steer the vehicle left and right effortlessly. It enables the driver to be able to calculate the steering distance from the left direction to the right direction. Just like if a driver now wants to corner at an angle of 30 degree angle, and if the driver wants to corner at that kind of angle, that DC brushless motor and the electrical component will help to calculate the amount of steering and the amount of torque which the driver will put on this wheel, to enable the tires to move to that direction. So that is one of the importance of a power steering. A power steering is also used in heavy duty vehicles too, to be able to steer heavy duty vehicles. Imagine someone carrying a full load of fuel in a truck and wants to move to the opposite direction. It will be very, very hard with a manual setup to steer the vehicle, because one, there is no friction between these gears, and if there is no friction between these gears, it's not going to be easy to steer it, because there is no lubricant that will lubricate the gears. So that is one of the disadvantages of a manual setup. But that was in the ancient days. So present day, there is already a power steering system in this present day. So let me drive you to the component of a power steering system. So this is the electrical component of a power steering. Electrical component of a power steering. This is the brushless direct current motor. And this is the screw gear. This is the sun gear. While this one is the electrical control unit. One thing, remember a little bit longer, I mentioned the electrical control unit is the unit of the power steering which calculates the torque which is generated by the driver. To calculate the torque generated by the driver helps the driver to calculate the amount of torque the driver should give to the steering wheel that will enable the tire to turn at that particular degree to the next direction. So this electrical control unit controls the brushless direct current motor, and this brushless direct current motor is capable of moving anti-clockwise direction and clockwise direction, which is moving round and anti-clockwise. While this sun gear is the gear that is connected to the pinion gear. So it is connected to the pinion gear and also connected to the brushless direct current motor connected to the screw gear. So this screw gear is what helps the steering, is what helps the driver to steer the vehicle to the other direction without any serious effort put on the steering wheel. So now these electrical motors, when the driver steers the system to the other direction, this electrical motor automatically generates electricity, which is generated from this, which is first of all passed to this electrical control unit, which has resistors and conductors which resist the amount of flow of current from the battery. So this ECU now will send that current, exact amount of current which is needed for this motor to turn that steering or assist the driver to steer to that particular direction. That is what this brushless direct current motor will do. Then why this brushless direct current motor is going to turn? It's going to turn this screw gear, and the screw gear is also going to turn the sun gear. So when the screw gear turns the sun gear will turn the pinion gear, and the pinion gear will turn the steering rack, which will enable the vehicle to turn to the other direction. You know, present vehicles, other modernized vehicles nowadays have 4-wheel and this steering system whereby the back tire, which is the rear tire, also steers at a particular angle, which helps the front tire to tilt the vehicle and helps the vehicle to stay out of a parking lot. Consider a vehicle which want to park in a very little space and can't turn very well. That is where the rear wheel steering system comes in place, and it also helps the driver to turn the vehicle to that direction with easy and very little amount of effort put by the driver. These are the types of power steering which you have in the present day vehicle. So this is the hydraulic power steering, and this is the electric motor driver power steering, and this is the electro-hydraulic power steering. You can see that from the names of this steering system, you can determine what this kind of steering system would look like. So now let's dive into it. You see, the hydraulic power steering, it consists of hydraulic, which is generated from the engine to the steering rack. So when it's generated from the engine to the steering rack, the hydraulic press will enable the driver and reduce the rate of friction in the steering rack. So with this hydraulic, it will enable the driver to steer the vehicle effortlessly. You remember when I was saying something about the steering rack, that without friction in that manual steering rack, you cannot steer that vehicle effortlessly. So now this is one of the little implements which engineers and automotive engineers in place, and I'm thanking them for that also, to bring the hydraulic press power steering system. So now let's go to what they call an electric vehicle. This is what I like electric vehicle for: electric motor driver power steering system. You can see that in electric motor electric motor driver power steering system, the brushless direct current motor, which is the BLDC motor, brushless direct current motor, is a motor which is used in the steering system, and that is why they call it electric motor driver. So that electric motor driver is from the electric motor, the power they generated from the electric motor, which is from the battery of the vehicle. Mostly electric vehicles use that one because the vehicle has enough batteries to accommodate such electrical components in the vehicle, and also some other sophisticated vehicles which are produced nowadays, like the Mercedes-Benz, the Toyota, the S-Class series, and whatever I mentioned them. They are very good. So now, the electro-hydraulic power system is also the combination of hydraulic and electric motor. So imagine your vehicle battery dies, or you don't have, like your battery vehicle dies while you're driving and you can't steer the vehicle when it's your electric motor. This is where the hydraulic power steering system comes in place. It will help you to steer your vehicle to the other direction in order to prevent you from having an accident or driving into another person's vehicle and causing loss of lives. So that is why the electro-hydraulic power steering system comes. So in order not to be only dependent on the electro-motor drive and power steering or the hydraulic power steering, and they brought two of them together. In our next video, I'm going to be talking more about this hydraulic power steering system and electric motor driver power steering system and electro hydraulic power steering system. I'm going to be talking about each of the components that consist of each of these power steering systems, and each of the components and everything about the component.